can begin with the usual prayer for teacher and student. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditam Astu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May that one protect us both. May that one nourish us both. May we work together with great energy. May our study be illumined. May we not unnecessarily cover with each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. I'll mute the microphone so you can assemble some questions and I can assemble some answers.
I had a few observations, Swamiji. One of them is today, well, I got like 2 chairs and a table because I moved to this flat recently. And while I was building it, because I've been building every single furniture in here, I was just looking at the chair, which was like half done, and I realized how the one prepares us in very different ways, and we're very unconscious in how we do things, and sometimes we're in automatic. It's like, oh no, I'm just building a chair, without realizing that actually is building something else in you. So I realized this much more awareness in there that we then realize in daily tasks like cooking or seeing someone or learning something is all part of the bigger picture. And I just found, when I was looking at that, I was having this realization. I just felt God. That's what came to my mind, and how, how much we're learning every day, and with everything that is around us, and we don't give the credit that we actually need to do, like with nature's so much teaching us, and just being there and recognizing the beauty that is in there, and the love, and the you are there. And why do you feel so good is this a reason. So we don't really realize that much in what we do. It really has a lot to do with life, and what we live. And well, and the second thing is, um I think so much reflecting in the talk you gave about love, and how do we love, and how do we relate to relationships. And I realized it's much more complex than what we think it is. I feel like love is very easy. It's said very easy, really so
Love
complex.
is easy, humans are difficult.
Yes, but there are so many different types of love, which is the same love. And I feel like, nowadays it's only about either friendship love or romantic love. There's a big jump in it, when there are like so many different, specifications there. But I just thought how hard it is to let go when you really love, and accept, like this beauty from Osho. I don't know if you had a look. That I sent in the group, but it was like it's about accepting the other person's will and what they want to do. And sometimes when this person decides to walk away, and then you feel like, oh my god, how do I actually now disconnect? And anyways, with loads of observations in.
Okay, so let me address some of those issues, I think, yeah? Firstly, our capacity to observe things is enormous. If you stand behind somebody and suddenly clap your hands, then the person will automatically turn around because we have this expression, you caught their attention. Of course, you didn't catch anything, but the sound alerted that part of the human mind that is dedicated to shifting attention. Now, you mentioned a chair. I think that's what you said, building a chair. I remember once we had the Enneagram course in Zimbabwe, and it was on the basis of bring and share, and everybody bought a chair instead. there is an exercise that we can do which is called the empty chair. That is, you can sit, you can imagine, or you can have a physically an empty chair next to you. And you can imagine whatever your version of that Supreme is sitting there on the chair. And have a conversation. So that's an aspect of meditation we can always have at any time. But it does mean that we have to bring that deity from these far outside, right indoors, right to your home, right on the chair. And then you can have a conversation with a friend. Conversation might go something like this. You are present here. What does your presence mean to me? And how does it arrange chemicals to give me joy? And that's associated with your second part of your observation, that in human love, naturally, initially it's a chemical process. So there are a number of chemicals that are designed by Mother Nature to excite every part of the body, and rationale takes the back seat. Emotion takes the front seat. So that's nature's way of allowing us to propagate the species nicely. Springtime is the time for this. And there are many stories in Hindu mythology about springtime and the effects. So can we properly observe even a chair and say, let me, even in imagination, put my beloved, whatever it is, entity sitting there, and have a relatively normal conversation? What do you expect from me? What is, if I called you a name that was most endearing to you, what would that be? And can I see myself through your eyes? Can I sit in your chair from time to time and see how the world looks from your point of view? God made the world and saw that it was good. Through our human eyes, we see everything as bad and needing of correction. So is there a way that we can look at things and shift our attention and have an intimate conversation with that particular person who also but initiates the pump of the heart and initiates the thought as a thought current that arrives at your substation for you to use, digests your food, repairs your cells, does all the unseen work. We are completely unaware of this happening. Supposing now we were to have the gift of awareness. I say gift because we have it already, of course, but we don't often take the attention and steer it in a detailed way. As every person is sitting here, can you feel what your left toe is feeling? Or your right toe? Can you feel what your ankle is feeling? Can you feel what the elbow is feeling? Can you feel the pump, the pulsation of your heart? Can you feel the warmth of the blood supply going around the body? Are you aware of the internal mechanism that makes sure that your body temperature is the same regardless of the season? Are you aware of the act of breathing? Of course, when you do breathing exercise, you become aware of it. So it seems we have to make a special effort to steer our attention so that we yield awareness. Awareness physically, awareness emotionally, awareness even intellectually. So many things are going on. And awareness comes with a flow of divine grace towards us to say there's a current being supplied, and we have the capacity to steer that current in a chosen direction. And then we have the capacity to feel, how does that feel physically, emotionally, Does it lighten up intellectually? Does it make us feel happier? Intellectually, does it take all our problems and put it to one side? When we review the so-called problems from the human point of view, does it change things so that we see things in a very different light? Is there a different feel that we have, a more profound feeling? So how do we cultivate this awareness? One technique is what we call the empty chair. Have a conversation. Now, the most important part of the empty chair exercise is listening. So when we ask the questions, when we keep the company, in any normal conversation, listening is important. We're not very good listeners. By and large, not many people listen properly. What are the indications of a poor listener? Well, lack of empathy. When you listen, you have to try to feel what is the other person feeling. I put myself in the other person's shoes. Not just have a sympathy. Sympathy anybody can do. But try to understand on the emotional level what they're trying to communicate. And the evidence of not doing that is that we are lacking in keen observation in listening. Empathy and observation, keen observation, are the two components in listening. And when we let go of our own persona, when we let go of our own self-interest, then we have the opportunity to listen. It's as if all the noises were reduced to a still silence. And in that still silence, we can then be an opening station. We can be a listening post. And then see what this divine has to say to us. So some of it will be stimulating a conversation, others simply practicing the presence, spending quality time with the Lord of the universe, if you will, or the Mother of the universe, or whatever aspect you have. And then suspending your own self-interest to be in a listening mode. And see what happens from deep within, see what stirs within you, and your response will be elevating. And that's something also that you can observe. The same chemicals that are there in human relationships, the same sense of joy and delight and all of those things that result in endorphins and all of those other chemicals that come up, oxytocin and so on. All of those active chemicals come up. And that is why in spirituality, when people experience that level of bliss, then other kinds of joy pale in comparison with it. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, we are told of rankings of bliss, kind of units. If you do this, you'll have so much bliss. And if you go in, and each movement is an inward movement. And each inward movement exposes much more joy, much more bliss. And then it's available for expression. Now, when we express it, will we say I'm allocating some kind of expression? No. Expressing is expressing. You turn a lamp on, and the light is expressing everywhere. You can't avoid it. What was the thing that happened? You made a connection. When you put that connection on, immediately the current is flowing and expressing itself as the lamp and as the light that flows from it. So in the same way, a person like that who's experiencing this internal rapture continuously will be a kind of reverberating, pulsing point of joy everywhere, with no discerning, with no discrimination, with no withholding. It'll be with a spirit of generosity spread to everybody in all things. So we take the clues, we take the human relationships, we value them deeply, and they can be extremely spiritual, incorporating every aspect of the human persona, incorporating the physical, incorporating the emotional, the intellectual, the cultural, and ultimately the spiritual. Now, supposing you turn it around the other way, supposing you make a spiritual foundation first. Then in making the spiritual foundation, the cultural and intellectual will flow from it. And the emotional will flow from that. the feeling will flow from that. And the energy will flow from that, and the physical also will flow from that. So it's using it the other way around. And instead of then seeing that we have to try and battle against the odds in life or something of that nature, by turning everything inside out almost, and looking at things from a completely new point of view, from an origin point of view, where the Creator stands, standing where that divine stands. And then see how does that look. And you'll find a very different world, which is completely delightful, a complete joy. But what about all the difficulties in life and all the sorrows? Are we just overlooking that? Are we glossing it over? Are we burying our heads in the sand and say life is okay? No, we're not. But we're taking those with a blessing attitude instead, rather than a cursing or correcting attitude. One device, of course, of this, a very powerful device, will be the use of japa. There's a little booklet that I tend to carry with me. I've just come on a journey and away from Dublin. I'm now sitting in France. And so whenever I have a spare moment, without carrying huge amounts of literature around with me, I take out a little book. So this is from Sri Ramakrishna's consort, Holy Mother, Sharada Devi, who happens to be my grand teacher. While performing japa, she says, take the name of God with utmost love. Those people who are familiar with what is japa, the repetition of God's name, will add a dimension, the loving repetition. We must make it a loving repetition. Why? Because the name is dear to us. What the name represents is dear to us. Every word would have to have a corresponding concept. And every sacred word we utter will have an actual presence with it. So it should be an utmost delight to take that special name of God, which you have. Do it with sincerity. That is, don't be in a hurry to do it. Take it easily. Take it with an openness of heart. Take it from the point of view of a real connection, just like the empty chair exercise. Some real entity standing there with you, not normally noticed because all our attention is dispersed elsewhere. And so when we repeat the name, our attention gets focused. It's just like in young love, when spontaneously two loving people, two lovers are repeating each other's names unwittingly, then the presence also of that person must be there, no doubt. So sincerity and then self-surrender. What does it mean? By yourself, you're helpless. I'm not trying to bring you down, but it's a fact. You don't think that you're breathing. Some entity is doing it for you. Don't think that you have an independent life with an independent body. Don't think that you are the agent for anything. You're not. As I often say, we're all running on canned sunshine, bottled energy, that's all. We can't claim anything of our own. As soon as we shift the ownership, then we have a different view of things. We have a surrendering attitude. Surrendering means being in a listening mode, being in an accepting mode, being prepared to be like a vessel and filled. Not asserting, let me fill it, let me fill it. What can you fill? See, the example is there. It is taken from Patanjali Yoga Sutras. Good and bad deeds are not the direct causes of transformations, says Patanjali. And the commentary goes like this. We're only dealing with obstacles. But you yourself are the obstacle. It's you that's putting yourself in the way. What do we mean by yourself? We mean the agency assumption, the actor, the prophet-actor complex that says, I do this, I do that, I have this problem, I have that problem. And it comes in many, many different versions. It can come in, let me change the world. Let me be a correcting person, like correcting fluid. Correcting fluid in the old days, typics, they call it. You correct, you make a typing error, you make a correction. But anybody today will see, oh, you made a correction. It's not perfect. It's not supposed to be perfect. You made a mistake. I made a mistake. But I made a correction also, which balanced it. I didn't add anything to it. So God made the world and saw that it was good. And he doesn't need any advice from us as to how to run his universe. Send him a complaint letter or a petition. So many thousands of people, millions of people, 7 billion people maybe wrote a petition. We're not happy with the way you're running the world. You should please stop all the wars. You should stop all the volcanic activities. And you should stop the weeds in the garden. And you should just make me happy, please. There was a South African songwriter who writes a wonderful song like that. And he was a Christian. He still is a Christian, of course. And he takes the biblical creation and he makes a wonderful song from it. He says, you see, God made everything and then he made man, and there began the problem. Because as soon as the man got his self-consciousness, said, where are my rights? I want my rights. I have the right to be happy. I have the right to enjoy things. And so all of that goes on, you see, a demanding kind of trained unionist kind of point of view. Says, I demand that you give me whatever you have to give me. So are we a demanding kind of person that sees things need to be corrected? Or are we a self-surrendering person that accepts the free gifts that flow through us in speech, in mind, in body? Accept all of that, accept love, accept the gifts which are given to us by nature itself, in terms of sunshine, in terms of the wonderful arrangement of the earth spinning in such a way that we get seasons and we're able to then enjoy agricultural growth and all of the rewards that come from it. And then she says, before commencing your meditation daily, she's assuming that we're meditating daily. At least morning and evening should be done. First, think of your utter helplessness. Not weakness, helplessness. On the basis that I, of myself, can do nothing. I require to tap into the divine grace. Just like that, Patanjali Sutras, good and bad deeds, another direct causes of transformations, is simply when obstacles are removed, something flows through. So first of all, we have to identify what are the obstacles. Most people think, no, there are no obstacles. Life is just painful and it's a struggle and I'm doing my best. And those people who have everything, all their ducks in a row, those people who have everything well organized, they'll say, oh, I'm happy, but you see, to hang with the rest of everybody else. As long as I'm happy, that's all that matters. Those kind of people, the happiness won't last very long. That's testified in a number of millionaires, billionaires. I always remember there was the richest man in the world. He was Paul Getty, way back. And there was a documentary on him, the most miserable, miserly person you could ever imagine. He refused to go into an elevator or lift because he didn't want to tip anybody. And there, the documentary showed him a lone figure at the end of a huge dining table. Richest person in the world. He had a great formula for success, by the way. He said, get up early in the morning, go to bed late at night, work hard, and most importantly, strike oil. So that was his road to wealth. Of course, the last bit is quite difficult. Of course, we can strike oil metaphorically. We can access that unique treasure within us that provides us with infinite possibilities. What's stopping us? So many things are stopping us. First of all, doubt is stopping us. I doubt I can do it. I doubt that there are any possibilities in me. No, you are worthwhile. After all, that divine entity decided to invest life in you. Not a bad investor, not a foolish investor. The fact that you're living means that there's a destiny for you, a plan that unfolds to arrive at your full potential. All you have to do is remove the obstacles. And what we call evolution is a process of gradually removing the obstacles so that the flow can happen by itself. If you want to transport water from a vast body like a lake, bucket by bucket, you won't manage. Your own self-effort won't do it. What is your self-effort? An opening has to take place. You become an open channel for divine grace to flow through by itself. So without our helplessness in this world, and then slowly begin the practice of sadhana, spiritual practice as directed by your guru. Why do we emphasize this guru? It seems to be sometimes a strange concept in Western culture that has to be a guru. Can I not access God directly? Why do I need another party to do it? But you'll know if you want to learn anything, some teacher is necessary. If you want to learn woodwork, you have to catch hold of a carpenter and say, please teach me. And you can't expect the teaching to happen in 1 hour. You can't expect just to tune into a YouTube video on how to make something. Even that will tell you a process, but then you have to take a wood. You have to take your tools. You have to have a concept in mind. What will I shape? You have to have some kind of artistic input. And it's also an emotional input. You have to have some enthusiasm in what you're doing. There are 2 ways to play musical instruments. One is to understand the skill of it. And you do it like numbers, like painting by numbers. You can be a painter like that. But these are not great artists. You go to the great art museum there in the Louvre, and you see these big masterpieces, huge works of art, painstakingly done. It requires the skill, no doubt, of knowing how to blend materials, colors. At the end of it, how to varnish without damaging the painting so that it lasts long. How to capture the facial expressions and the scenes and the positioning of scenes so the eye goes directly to what the artist is trying to portray. But these are not great paintings. The great paintings will be those masterpieces that have feeling inserted also. If there is a storm, a picture or a painting of a storm on a sea, it's as if I'm there on the sea, being tossed about by the waves, being stranded. The desperation, the ragged clothes that people have, the drowning man, the rescued woman, all of these things. That's what brings the picture alive. And it's the same thing with anything in life, but in particular, it's the same thing with spiritual practice. So there has to be not just a teacher that says, here's how you paint. Because anybody can be a student like that. Anybody can learn a skill. No, there has to be spirit put in. And so the whole idea of Guru is to insert that aspect of spirit inside it. That element of energy, that universal Shakti has to go through. And it comes through as a mantra. The mantra handed down through a series of apostolic succession, if you want to put it like that, what we call Guru Parampara, a lineage. But ultimately, there's a flow of divine grace that comes through it because it's coming from God Himself, herself, itself, making a flow like that. And so that competent teacher can be identified by that person's own life, that person's openness, lack of motivation other than pure love. That's all. And pure love has no motive in it. It's just an expression. And its expression is also a transforming expression. It has the capacity to transform everybody. The greatest teachers by a look, by a touch. All these are and the avatars, of course, are the greatest of these. By a mere look, by a mere touch, they can do it. By a mere thought, they can do it. So these are the great teachers that are necessary to teach us this sadhana and to bring us to a point where you realize that your own mind is the guru. The purified mind is the guru. The guru is there to say, here, polish the mind a little bit. And then you realize, you see, it's all in me anyway. There's only one guru, and that is called cosmic mind. Cosmic mind, what in theology is called logos, nous, etc. Is that beaming cosmic mind. There was an incident this morning, just on the way to the airport. There was one person, the person who dropped me off was telling me, says, you see these thoughts that you produce. And I was mentioning a conversation I had previously. Says, you see, it seems that it's the right thought for me every day. And all I replied was, cosmic mind. You can't blame me for it, the cosmic mind. There's no blame at all, but it's the blessing and dispatch of the cosmic mind. That's what it is. So to access this cosmic mind is the art, is the what we call spiritual practice sadhana. It's not a struggle. It's a tuning process, more like a tuning process. It's an elevation of the attention as much as we possibly can, whenever we can. Continue doing it. And noticing where it strays away and bringing it back, constantly bringing it back. This abhyasa yoga, bringing it back, constant remembrance. Like tuning, because cosmic mind is always there, but we have to tune into it. So, just for the fun of it, try your empty chair experiment. And yes, understand the value of human relationships to be traced back to the ultimately blissful relationship that a devotee has as a lover with the beloved, that goes beyond the narrow confines of genetic love. The genetic love is quite easy. So, all right. These are some comments anyway about your observations.
I've been thinking when you said that it was not very practical to think of everything as energy. So I've been reflecting on how to kind of recognize.
No, can I stop you there? No.
Yeah.
Not as material energy, but as you have to recognize everything as divine energy. There's a difference.
Because when you said it, I was trying to kind of think, but even if we look into the science point of view, because we're all particles of the same, so it's been quite difficult for me to change that thought, because when I refer to energy, it's more into is a feel. It can't be expressed. So I was wondering if
if you are relating to energy where you and energy are different, then the danger.
Oh no.
Yeah. You see, then the danger is that this energy affects my mood, or my mood affects this energy, or that kind of thing, you see. So sometimes we can get caught up in the expressions bad energy, good energy. Energy is energy. It's not good, it's not bad. It's just as it is. And if you are looking for the substratum of the whole of this material existence from the science point of view, well, it is energy, but it's indescribable. No scientist will ever be able to tell you what energy is. They can't describe it, they can't define it. They know the effects of it. This is one of the great things in modern science. We can categorize it. We can say there's gravitational energy. We can say there's electrical energy, radiational energy. We can say that there's nuclear energy. We can say there's magnetism, or we can combine the two, electromagnetism. And then there's a resistance called inertia. So these are all categories of energy. But what is this fundamental ocean that expresses itself in all these separate and different ways? And so when we catch the separateness in people who highlight change your energy, this is a little misleading, because it's a misunderstanding of energy that in yogic language we call prana. The most subtle form of prana is psychic energy. That is thought. When you change your thinking, then you are giving a new direction to energy, not only locally in you, but also around you and everywhere. But if there's any sense of fear about it, or any sense of doubt about it, or any sense of superstition about it, then you're on the wrong lines, because you've forgotten the fundamental universality of energy, of which you are part, physically. And in every other dimension, it all boils down to one thing. And that is actually divine energy. Different systems will have different words for it. So in the tantric system, we'll call it Shakti. And there'll be many expressions of that. But Shakti in that language, Shakti and Shiva representing the Absolute, which is Brahman, are not seen to be different. One is with time and space and causality, and the other one is not. The other one is just pure being, doesn't have any movement, no mind, no space, no occupation, no body, nothing. And yet it's not a nothingness, it's an everythingness. So there's the definition. Can you tell me, what is God? Is there a definition? Very often people ask, what is the definition of God? And we don't hesitate to use the word, even though it means different things to different people. It is the highest reading to the human mind of the Absolute. And once that border gets crossed, as it were, from being to becoming, then the first entity which is there, which is a personal entity, is called cosmic mind. That is that entity that sits on the empty chair, that entity that walks and works with you, that entity that listens to you, that entity that conveys a message to you, where you listen to that entity that becomes intimate, and entity becomes the all. That entity to the devotee is there as an aspiration called a vision of God. What is the aspirant's aim? May I have a vision of God. What is the intellectual's, the jnana yogi, what is his aim or her aim? It's, may I get what is the truth that never changes, that constancy. Let me get that. By elimination. Let me see, oh, it's not this, not this, not this, not this. Oh, that's what it is. There's a positive side to that. That is to see that amorphous entity flowing through all the, what we call upadis. Upadi means adapters. Limiting adjuncts. Limiting the flow of potentiality on the one side and expressing it on the other side. You take a lamp, for example, you are limiting the electrical current at that point, but you're expressing it as light at the other end. So everything that we see is an expression like this, and awareness of this really is a fundamental basis of daily spiritual practice, not sitting, not necessarily sitting. Without that, sitting is not possible. Sitting for formal meditation is not possible. And without the formal meditation, the rudder of your boat in daily life will go every which way. So, and there has to be a set time for it. A set time. Why should there be a set time for this formal spiritual practice? Is because if we wait for the inspiration to come, it may never come. But at least if the mind is trained to sit at certain times every day, constantly, then at least that much the mind has a chance of being steered. Your attention is being steered, almost forced, as it were, until it becomes easy and natural. At that time, the mind naturally goes inward. We take the great mystic Saint Ramakrishna that people take as a great incarnation. He didn't have a watch, but he knew when he could no longer see the hairs on his arms that it was time for evening sandhya, devotional practice. And his devotional practice was an area of receptivity. It wasn't a forced thing. It wasn't an A, B, C, D thing. It wasn't, I must do this and that and the other. It was a spontaneous expression of a presence that was tangible, real, and one with him. And so he would go into that mood, that indrawn mood at that time, spontaneously. People catching him at that time of day, the junction of day and night, would actually naturally see him being withdrawn into that mood, nature's mood. So we have to take advantage of those kinds of things. All right, so it's 15 minutes to 8. And if there are no further questions, I might be inclined to wind up early this evening. So I'll see if there are any other.
I was actually just going to add the last thing, which while I was listening to you, I remembered that a few days ago, I was thinking, there's a phrase, well, there's an exercise when someone is triggering you or something is triggering you. The first question is, what is inside this person that is reflecting you? And I used to think, okay, so I used to quite understand. I used to look at people and I used to be like, okay, but I'm not, let's say, greedy. So what do I have from this person in me? And in that moment, I think I realized what it means is really we are all one. So this person is you. That's why they have a part of you. It's like this chair. It's like everything. That totality. So it was very life changing, to be honest.
Yes, exactly. So practicing that flow all the time, uh, so that it becomes habitual, you can see how beautiful that is and how truthful that is, of course. So when you do away with all these distinctions, somebody triggering you, that question doesn't arise, that situation doesn't arise. There's no separate person to do any triggering. That realization can come. We have to have a holistic point of view on this at every level. One energy. There's only one thing that expresses itself as matter, that's energy itself. And the highest energy is mind. And everything is what mind, cosmic mind. And everything from there is this innate natural potentiality that we call nature. And beyond that border, so to speak, or expression, is that one without a second inexpressible entity standing there. Now, what we have just gone through really is going through from this individuality and duality to a connectedness to an absolute sense of pure being. And that's the process. You can't jump. Very rarely can you jump. Those unique and special gifted ones maybe can do it. But for most people, you have to take a progressive, pleasant journey inward. You can say inward or upward, depending on your simile. And I emphasize progressive. Progressive means it's solid. If you make progressive steps in learning a musical instrument, then that's good. Improvement a little bit every day, and be satisfied with it. But never stop practicing. See, all these principles are fine, but then you ask somebody, are you practicing these? Now, clearly you're practicing it, which is wonderful, to get that sense of unity. So you take the first impulse and impression, and then you go deeper and deeper and deeper until you get that sense of oneness, that unity. All good. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Merci beaucoup, Swami.
Merci beaucoup.
Om